you. Because of your name, it is powerful. But then, when you can put a smile on your face like that, they definitely go together, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being
Clinton,
our
thank you
guest.
for having me. It's a pleasure. And as far as the last name, it has helped out a lot. I mean, I was an
Yeah.
athlete, so all that stuff, it's helped out in every arena of my life. So yeah, thank you for having me.
It's awesome because and we'll get into a little bit of your past and being an athlete and being a peak performer. I always like to record these pre-conversations that we have, even though they're not live, and I would never do that to anybody. But it's just so interesting finding your people and finding your tribe. Like you and I have some similarities growing up through the world, and we're going to talk about some of those today. So a lot of people that are listening, they might know who you are, a lot of your followers, a lot of the people that we connect with together. But there's also going to be a great deal of our audience that still doesn't know who you are. So who are you and what is it that you do?
So again, my name is Justin Rambo. So I'm a personal development coach. And so that's what I've been doing for the last really 2.5 years. But as we were talking off camera or off recording, I've been doing it my whole life. And so for me, the story is vast, like everyone else, right? There's a lot of ups and downs, which we'll get into. But what I found was growing within yourself and helping people grow within themselves and helping or setting their foundation. That's where I get joy out of life, really helping people move forward through this thing that we call life. Because as far as we know, this is our first time here, right? So why not reach down and help other individuals? So right now I'm a personal development coach, and that's going to continue. I have a personal development company, personal development podcast, so on and so forth.
And that's awesome. When you're talking about personal development and you're really talking, I mean, as well as I do, we're in life coaching and creating, an abundance of other people's lives. So it's, there's a lot of giving back. When you're talking about personal development coaching, for you, why did you gravitate towards this? What part of this journey is like your claim to fame? Like, what is the biggest thing that stands out versus any other coach out there when it comes to personal development?
Well, I would say, honestly, I'm just going to tell you about, where it started. And for me, it started in first grade. First grade, right?
Okay.
And so here's the story. Get to first grade and we're learning how to do math and we're learning how to write and read. And so we would have to do these assignments before lunchtime, finish them before lunchtime. After lunch, we would come back and have recess. Well, if you didn't finish the assignments before lunch, then you had to finish them after lunch while the other kids were playing. So I found myself always having to finish these assignments after lunch. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I might not be smart or might not be as smart. I'm not sure which one it is. That was number one. Number two was, okay, now we have these reading groups, group 1, group 2, group 3. Group one, you have the kids that can read really well, the middle, and then you have group 3, right, where you need extra help. And the same thing for the math groups. Well, I was in group 3 for both. Okay, so that's number 2. Still in first grade, right, where you're really the formative years. Strike 3, we had this extra help teacher come into the classroom and take a group of kids out for extra help. So not only am I getting extra help in the group 3 for reading and math, but now I'm getting extra help because I was part of that group. So in my mind, the story I told myself was, I'm not that smart. I'm not smart like the other kids. And so that perpetuated itself from first grade all the way until, let's say, my early to mid 20s, right? So we'll get into that part of the story. But on the other hand, I was an athlete, right? So I had not feeling as, smart as the other kids, but a really good athlete. And then the middle, which this one thing in the middle, it flowed to both sides. It was my temper. I had a very explosive temper. So whether it was in class or whether it was in sports, very explosive temper. What ended up happening was my temper, no matter where I was or who I was around, would always get the best of me, and I would always get in trouble, right? But my saving grace was sports. And I still didn't feel smart in school. All right. Well, fast forward to my senior year in high school. You know, I'm getting college offers to play football was my main sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my grades weren't good enough. All right, so I'll go to a junior college, play football. But I go to a junior college, and the same story I told myself from first grade, which was I wasn't as smart as the other kids, I'm not that smart, perpetuated itself in my first year in college. All right, so
Yeah.
I, play my first year of football, and then I drop out. No more college. Have my daughter at an early age, my first daughter, and then now, if you think about the story, sports was my saving grace. You had the temper in the middle and not feeling smart enough. Sports is gone. So now you have the temper and not feeling smart enough.
Wow.
So as you can imagine, there's a lot of growing pains, a lot of fights, a lot of arguments, a lot of just losing it,
Yeah.
through those years. And then now having a young daughter, that's not a good way to go about life.
Right. Right.
And now I'm a college dropout. Okay. Well, fast forward about a year. Let's try this college thing again. Let me prove to myself that I can do something, right? Go back to college, and I'm thinking I'm a little bit older. Let me figure this thing out.
Right.
I drop
a little
out
bit
again.
more mature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
But I drop out again, right? So I drop out again, and it wasn't because I didn't try hard enough. It was because of the story I still told myself. I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
All right. So then we fast forward. Now, this is where it gets pretty cool. We fast forward about 3 years later. I go back to school and I graduate with my bachelor's degree in kinesiology. If you look at my transcript from when I was, in high school and even my first 2 stints in college to my last stint, you think they're 2 different people.
Yeah.
100%. So what happened in those years were a lot of personal development, a lot of growth, to where it not only helped me with the academic realm in academia, but my temper started to be able to manage. I started being able to manage my temper, right?
Yeah.
Starting to
100%.
process things, understand things. Temper goes down, intellectual capacity goes up, my self-worth goes up, because I'm starting to feel good about myself, not knowing that there are other avenues or other things about myself that I was gifted in, right? As they say, your zone of genius. So that was about, from first grade till about mid-20s, and then we'll get through the rest. But that's how I got really into personal development, is because I looked at my own journey and started growing through then. But the caveat is, my whole life, people would always come to me for life advice because they told me I was an old soul and had a lot of wisdom. I didn't realize, I didn't put the 2 and 2 together. My emphasis was on, I'm not smart enough. So, focus was not there.
So I guess let me ask you a couple of things, with that, because that's pretty, it's, obviously I know you're going to fill in, some of the blanks and everything like that. But, athletes have something extraordinarily special, but also young kids at a young age that either have learning disabilities. I thought I had a learning disability. Why? Because I didn't read. It wasn't normal around my household to have a book in your hand, right? Maybe a magazine that you were flipping through, so that was my parents. Reading just wasn't important. So what do? You don't read, right? You play sports, I grew up on a farm. So, you go through all this. Do you think that because you maybe didn't have the exposure, because maybe you were behind in your academics, did that force you to, when the light bulb went off, to where you applied or you got help or anything like that? I guess talk about that. What changed? Because now when you're doing personal development and you're a personal development coach, you're Mr. Personal Development, I know you're doing a lot of reading. I know you're doing a lot of reading, and you run a business. So I know you're doing a lot of math, a lot more than what most people are doing. Tell me about that for a second.
It's funny. So before I answer that, I'm going to tell you a quick story. My 10th grade math teacher found me on Facebook about a year ago. And so I reached out to him through DM, and I said, in 10th grade, when I told you I would never really need math, I was wrong. You told me I would, and you were right. So yeah. But for me, the switch was, okay, my 3rd stint in college, I'm a little bit older, but I also get a job in a very affluent area.
Yeah.
And it's a part-time job. I'm going to school, but I'm the only African-American in that, working for that company. right? And I
Mm-hmm.
have my earrings in. I don't change my appearance, but what I
Mm-hmm.
do is I change how I represent myself.
Yeah.
And then once I started doing that, that forced me to want to learn more, want to
Yep.
engage with more people. It forced me to expand my mental horizon and what's
Yep.
possible. And so from there, I started getting promotions. And this is, just a part-time job. And so for me, I
Right.
realized there's a lot more that I can discover
Mm.
within myself if I just apply myself. So I took that same model, applied it to college. That's why I graduated. So that was a switch for me, but it still took a
Yep.
couple years to really nail things down to where I am now.
Wow. Well, and that was I mean, it's so crazy that you and I have such of the similar upbringings in the world, right? Because that was, when you're studying exercise science in school, I mean, you're forced to, I mean, I remember my friend and I, he was a pharmacy major. I was exercise science. Everybody else was in all these other career paths. But on Sunday, we were there learning in the library or trying to learn in the library, right? Because of all the reading you really need to do and all the information when you get that degree that you need to bring in. I mean, it's like being a doctor kind of, in a way. I mean, it's not, but you know what I'm getting at. So that's challenging, and then of course mathematics, and chemistry as well. Where did, because I know you were an athlete, and here's the other part of it, right? Like, were you the type of athlete that had to try to be really good? Were you naturally gifted? I mean, really? I mean, did you just always just kick ass at sports?
So I'm so glad you asked that question, because I want people to understand that a lot of the things you do in the physical, it shows you who you are, but it also shows you your gaps you need to make up. So as far as
100%.
me being an athlete, just to give you an idea, in high school, I ran a 4.3 in the 40, right? So I
Yeah.
had a lot of speed.
That's
I was a
fast.
gifted athlete. I didn't try hard in sports. So if I didn't try hard in sports, what did I also not try hard in? School.
Right.
What did I also not try hard in? Life. What did I also not try hard in? Learning
Right.
and growing. So,
Wow.
sports
Yeah.
for me was the dominant force besides the other two things. And so everything I did from sports, it trickled down into my life. And
Yeah.
so that in and of itself was, in my mind when I was younger, oh, I'm a natural athlete. I don't have to try hard. But when I got to my first year in college, everyone was a star athlete in their high school team. And guess what? The ones that actually tried hard in high school were ahead of me in college. So I said, okay,
Wow. Yeah.
just being natural is not
Yeah.
enough. Just being gifted is not enough. But that also showed me how I operated. And we'll get to that in a second. But understanding how you operate helps you move and go forward in what I call your superpower. It helps you
Yeah.
overcome those fears and do the things that you're really supposed to do, and not worry about looking at the scoreboard and trying to sound like someone else and being like someone else, because I almost fell for that. And if I did, I wouldn't be here with you today.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And it's so amazing what you said, because you were honest, right? Because what you could have said is like, no, man, I mean, I was a horrible athlete as well. Like, I had to really, do well and extreme, you know what I mean? And do this and do that and put all the effort and the work in. But for you to recognize that it was bleeding into the way that you were running the rest of your life, because you were gifted, because you were a natural athlete, that's what you love to do, but it was easier for you. Maybe, genetically speaking, maybe, I mean, who knows, maybe whatever, it doesn't matter. But it's so powerful that you were able to catch that in your life, because, as well as I do, and because you are a top level athlete, you've been around those professional athletes that they went through their whole life damn near like that. Something comes up, they're in their mid 40s or 50s or whatever, and they're really trying to figure things out at that point. Yeah, right? Mm-hmm. Because they take that same work ethic maybe and they don't apply it. I guess let's talk about, what you've learned in this journey. And I guess, if we can go back a little bit, I guess before we go back in time, I do want to know the future. And I do want to know, where do you see this thing for you right now? I mean, you're growing, you got your 5-year window, and then you got 10 years, and then even past that as well. What do you see? What are some of the ambitions that you have for the future before we talk about the past?
One of my major ones is I want to have the world's largest personal development company. And the reason I want to
Nice.
have that is because 2014, I opened my first business, and that was the
Yeah.
brick and mortar personal training studio, which I had for 4.5 years. And I
Yep.
opened it in the same town that I was the athlete in. Now, by this
Yeah.
time, I'm 20, I think I was 27 or something like that, 26, 27. So I'm, far removed from high school, but my name still,
Right.
has weight in that town. So I opened my first
Right.
business. People see it on the main street. So on the outside, things look good to everybody. But on the inside, I was dealing with a bunch of debt. I was dealing with the relationship with the ex who I have two daughters by,
Yep.
dealing with that, going to court, all those, nasty things. We weren't getting along. And so I really had to search within myself, but I didn't know where to start. And I heard someone say something about personal development. Now, this guy was wealthy, but he didn't talk about wealth. He talked about personal development. So I said,
Yep.
okay, well, what is personal development? Like, do I press a button somewhere? Do I go to a vending machine and get out personal development? What is it?
Right.
And so it took me a long time to formulate what it was for me. But I want to have the world's largest personal development company because I wanted to streamline it. I wanted to streamline it for a lot of people because there's so much information out there. There's so many people to turn to. And so that's why doing that homework and studying and understanding what personal development really is important because I want to have that streamlined company for individuals. So that's my long-term, very, very long-term goal.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. And anything else, in the pipeline? I know that you're an author. You already wrote one book. Any other
Yeah.
books that are going to be coming out? I know you have your podcast as well.
Yep.
Talk to
Yeah.
us a little bit about the other adventures.
Yeah, so speaking of the book, so the book is called Turn on the Noise. It's on Amazon. And I told you, right? And I wasn't good in school. In fact, when I graduated high school, I had a 1 point something GPA, so I was not good in school. I
Yeah.
struggled with reading, but I wrote the book in 6 weeks, my first book in
Nice.
6 weeks. Now, people are like, well,
Nice.
how would you write it in 6 weeks if you weren't good in school? I know you graduated later on, but like academics, that's not your strong point. I
Yeah.
wrote it in 6 weeks because I discovered how I operate. And that's what we were talking about earlier. I discovered
Yep.
how I operate best. And that's utilizing my superpowers. That's what I
Yep.
was saying allows you to go forward. So I wrote the book in 6 weeks. And after that, well, people are like, okay, well, what was your process? Because I've seen the transformation in you over the years. What'd you do?
Mm-hmm.
I found myself. Well, what do you mean you found yourself? Well, I found who Justin Rambo really was. Not the athlete, not the father, not the friend. At the core, who Justin Rambo really is. Where if I can, if you take me and drop me off in the desert, I'm still the same person. If you take me and drop me off in Hollywood, I'm still the same person.
Yeah.
And so I found out who I was, and they're like, okay, can you help me? So I said, all right, I can help you. And then more and more people started asking me. So I put together a program called Lost and Found, which is a
Mm-hmm.
5-week course that goes through the steps of finding yourself, discovering your superpowers, setting goals, and going forward based on that. And so what I
Nice.
utilize is my FSGT model, which is, first is foundation, understanding
Mm-hmm.
who you are, no matter what. As you said
Yeah.
earlier, Clinton, athletes who are in their 40s sometimes try to figure out life because they haven't found themselves. And we see that all the
That's
time.
right. Yep.
Once you find yourself, you discover your superpowers, your hidden strengths, the hidden talents. And then from there, you set goals. Because what I believe is if you're not progressing in life, it's like physical purgatory. And purgatory
Yeah.
is not fun. But
Right.
if you progress in life, utilizing your superpower, which are tied to your goals, it's all authentic and it's all you. And the last part, which is T, is it's traits. Traits wrap everything up, right? What traits do you
Yep.
need now? What traits do you need moving forward? And so I created a Lost and Found program, turned it into a course. So that's doing well. And then something that's up and coming is I am creating a program that's all about gaining confidence, right? Because
Nice.
personal development is part of confidence. And
100%.
discovering yourself, that's where the confidence comes from. But how do you really find the confidence? So I'm creating a program around that. It's a lot of different things in the works and future
Yeah.
books as well.
Yeah. 100%. That's awesome what you said. Confidence is such a huge thing, and it triggers all sorts of other things that take place within you. And when you're talking about personal development, I mean, I know that you have kids and I have a daughter as well. And as a matter of fact, we got picture day coming up on Friday. So I had to go and we had to go pick out an outfit today. My daughter's
Okay.
11, but she's already like 5 foot, Like she's,
Oh, wow.
growing really fast. And, these, especially, girls, they go through all these changes, and, she came out and it was just fantastic. I mean, she looked really pretty, nice dress, wasn't too flashy, of course dad's there, and I'm kind of monitoring things. And, she's like, I don't know if I look all right, and her confidence was, a little bit, iffy, but we were having this conversation on the ride home. And, my wife and I have always tried to build my daughter's confidence since she was just a little kid. And sometimes you get in trouble, right? Because you go the other side of that, and confidence turns into cocky, and then cocky, turns into some things. But, because of your lack of confidence with reading and education and stuff, do you feel the need to give back more of that in education of people? Is that why you wrote the book? Is that why you're creating the courses and the content? Because courses, I have a course as well, and it's content. It's it's the play to run. Like you were in sports, it's the play, but you still got to run it, right? You still got to do it. Is that where that comes from?
So not so much building the confidence in academia, but building the confidence in you as an individual, because once you do that, then the confidence can bleed over in other areas. And so what I usually acknowledge that, or how I usually, I guess, help people understand that is, like I'm a natural athlete. So I used to be able to work out and still eat whatever and still look fine. I can't do it now. I'm older. I can't do that now. But I used to be able to do that. And so I started gaining weight, and my confidence was low. And so I told myself, okay, well, what can you control? Control the controllables. What can you control? That's the easiest thing for you to control, and that you can
100%.
use that to bleed over into another area. I said, okay, I work out, but I don't complete the sets or reps that I tell myself I'm going to do. If I say I'm going to do 5 sets, I'll do 4. If I say I'm going to do 10 reps, I'll do 8, because I'm tired and I did 8. I'm good to go. And so I started making sure that I hit my numbers no matter what happened. Okay, I conquer that. So let me start conquering other things that I normally wouldn't finish. And so I started finishing those things. And then before you know it, the confidence in your life in general is up there, because you know who you are, you know how you execute, you know how you operate. And so if I can get people to find the confidence within themselves first, it bleeds over into other areas. So the reason I wasn't good in academia was because I didn't know how I operated. I tried to learn the only way that I knew how to learn. Now that I'm older, I realize I learn a totally different way, right? I have a different style of learning, but my learning curve, it beats a lot of, the traditional styles. And so it allows me to do things, you see, like how you do videos and I do videos. People are like, well, did you go to school for it? No, but I know how to learn those things. And so
100%.
confidence, you bleed it, start it in something small, which is the foundation of you, but let it bleed over into other areas.
Now, because you're a higher performer, and because you've now, and it sounds like to me like you've learned how to just rip through your strengths when it comes to learning or getting things done. I'm kind of the same way. I built, like, it's funny, I built a sales funnel, and no, I didn't go to school for that. I watched some YouTube videos, and
there you go.
and I told myself, I need to, by Tuesday, have this thing done, right? And you just do it, right? And I think that there's a lot of people that are afraid to fail, but you being a high performer, is that how you were able to write your book in 6 weeks? Because I'm writing a book and it's taken me longer than 6 weeks. And I'm like halfway done with it. It's a fairly long book. It doesn't matter. That's still kicking ass. Did you apply your strengths to that and just boom, knock it out, get it done, get it out there?
All right. So ready for me? All right. So ready for this? This goes back to sports again. It's really crazy how life works out. All right. So I had to learn, like I said, how I operate, how I execute, right? This also applies into how I make videos. If you notice, my videos are not that long. They're very short.
Yep.
All right. In football, I play running back, short burst. In track, 100%. I was a sprinter, short burst. In a lot of my conversations, I'll say a couple things, and then it's a question, short burst. All right. So in terms of writing the book, I have to get it done fast, or I won't do it. And so if I have to get it fast and I won't do it, what else am I good at that I can apply to the book process? Well, I'm good at structure. Okay, let me
Yeah.
structure the whole book out first, 10 chapters, and break the chapters down, and then say, hey, at this time in the morning and this time at night, I'm going to write. And I did
Yeah.
this while I was working a 9-to-5 job at the time. And so that's
Yeah.
how you apply your superpowers, but you have to know yourself first to
Yeah.
go forward. Now, since I did it one time, I can do it again. Now, I won't do it in 6 weeks, but I know how to actually write it now. And
Yeah.
so that's applying that superpower. Short bursts, the same thing with videos. The first time I wanted to make a video. Now, mind you, I was a personal trainer, right? And typically you see personal
Yeah.
trainers making videos, and I never got behind the camera. You would never see me behind the camera. You might hear me and see me videotaping other people. So
Right.
when I got into
Right.
personal development, I'm like, okay, well, people need to hear me, but I'm deathly afraid of getting in front of a camera. And this
Yeah.
is,
Right.
this was
Yeah.
like this is like August 2019. I don't want to get in front of a
Yeah.
camera. So what I
Yeah.
did was, okay, I know myself. I know I have to do things in short bursts, but I know I have to face the fear in order to
Yeah.
get over it. And how I know that is because anytime I would have to get a shot or have blood drawn, I had to look at the needle. Right. I
Yeah.
have to face it. So you parallel those things that you do naturally and that you
Yeah.
do to figure out how you operate. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna videotape myself on my phone so I can get used to my own self. Right. I'm talking
Yeah.
into the camera. And at first I'm trying to sound like Ed Milet or Eric Thomas. I'm like, yeah, this
Right.
is not gonna work. It's not gonna work. And so I
Yeah. Oh
almost gave
yeah.
up though. I almost gave up. I
Yeah.
said, you know what? You're short. You're a
Yeah.
bullet point. Be that. And so I
Yeah.
started talking into the phone, listening to myself. And then I got used to that. So the next step was, okay, show your wife. All
Yeah.
right. So she can get used to it. I show her for the first time. She's like, yeah, I don't like that. What's that? So I'm like, all right, well, we'll keep showing her. So then she
Yeah.
gets used to it. And then the next step was, all right, put something on social media. No
Yeah.
one's seen me do this stuff before. They're used to me being an athlete or in fitness. This is
Oh
totally new
yeah.
to most people I'm
Oh yeah.
around. Put it on Facebook, got used to it. The next thing was let me start doing Facebook Lives.
Yeah.
I got used to that. And then the next thing was my local news station at the time called and said, hey, we want you to go on air tomorrow for 5 minutes at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was prepared because I was doing the other things before. Right.
Right.
And so
100%.
that's
Yeah.
part of that process of knowing how you operate. And now putting out a video is no problem to me. Like even
Yeah.
doing this, right. And
Yeah.
speaking and doing things like that. So it's just knowing yourself is the best gift you can never give yourself.
And it's so amazing that I'm an analogy guy and I'm into metaphors and similes even and all that fun kind of, quirky stuff. But I use analogies a lot. And it is so much like a running back. You shoot the hole, if the hole's plugged, make a move, right? It's like, you're, in these short bursts, in these, and it is knowing yourself because once you get that rhythm down, I mean, and a lot of people get this. I know a lot of my clients get it. I know you've gotten it before. You get into a flow state. And when you get into a flow state, almost nothing can stop you. I mean, it's so funny that the Matrix is being like resurrected right now because that's what I think about when you get into the flow state. Everything changes, everything turns off, you hear nothing and you do it. But you're right, without repetitions, without you actually doing it and knowing yourself and taking the reps and keep going through, because yeah, you're right. Now, I mean, you and I could probably talk for 2 hours on this thing. And people are like, I would never put myself on a camera before. It's like, what? I love it. But you're right. You got to attack that fear. Now, where did all this come from? I mean, were you brought up this way? Did you have great mentors, great leaders, your parents? I mean, talk to me, I guess, a little bit about where you come from, or did you just end up like this?
It's weird. Like, so if you look at my siblings and my parents, there's a lot of differences, right? So I'm the really ambitious one. And,
Right.
My mom, her side of the family, there's a lot of wisdom in that side of the family. But
Yeah.
getting into what I'm getting into now, it actually all happened in one day. And so you just
Yeah.
mentioned something that was key. You said flow state.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time where I didn't understand. I knew who I was, but I didn't know what to do next. So that's like the purgatory I was in between. Okay, I know I am. Okay, what's next? And so I made it a goal of to write down an affirmation. Wake up early in the morning, say that affirmation every day, do my mantras every day, ask the universe, right? God, whatever you believe in, what should I be doing? And so then I eliminated all my distractions. No social media, no TV, no music, right? And the reason I say music is because anytime I would listen to music, I can be using that to, listen to myself. So car rides, getting ready and things like that. And so I thought it would take me a whole year to figure that out by doing that regimen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was Monday, February 25th, 2019. I get home from work early when I was working at 9 to 5. It was snowy in New York. My wife was at work. The kids were at school. So I opened my book, right? Because I was reading a book. And then it hit me. You need to do a personal development company. You need to do a personal development podcast. You need to write a book. And the company is going to be called Versatile Success. It hit me like that. Now, it was January 2019 when I made the mantras, affirmation, and started getting up early. And it finally hit me February 25th, right? And I realized it hit me because I turned down all the noise in my life. And that's why my book is called Turn on the Noise, because it's my belief that the question that you ask, you already have the answers to. You're just too distracted to hear it. It's like when you have that radio dial and you hear it a little bit, you hear static. You're like, okay, what is that? Maybe someone's talking. Maybe it's music. And you turn it a little bit more. Okay, someone's talking. What are they saying? You finally hit the right station and it's download. Boom. And it all hit me in one day.
Boom. Dude, that's so amazing that you say that, because, that's that provoking moment. And that's that pivotal time to where you're right. Like, I'm pumped to read this book too, by the way, because I just love that. I can just, in my head, like I'm kind of a comic book type guy. So all these new like DC movies and these Avengers and all that are real like in my head. But I just think of this like slow-mo, right? To where everything shuts off. The music is gone. Like, and it's just this powerful, like, shut the noise off, because really that is when provoking moments are changed. That's when they're designed, and it's so powerful that you had that. So you did this for how long? You kind of shut the noise down for what? Would you say a year?
So the goal was, okay, if I eliminate all my distractions for a whole year, I'll get the answer to what I'm supposed to be doing. It only took me from January 2019 to February 25th to understand what I should be doing, but I still kept my distractions limited. I didn't get on social media until like August of that year. I didn't start listening to music until later on. I always, to this day, still wake up and do my mantras, meditations, affirmations, right? To where I can recite them off the top of my head, because that's what worked. And so it didn't take me as long, but I had been seeking it and I had been asking, and I had no distractions. So I had no choice but to receive it.
Wow. That's fantastic. So, when you were growing up, you said you were different than, your siblings a little bit. What was it like? I mean, you grew up in New York? Did you grow up in New York?
Yeah. So I'm from Rochester, New York. So my brother is 7 years older, and I have an older sister who's 2 years older. And we all get along. We got along then. We get along now. I get along with my parents. But I was like the ambitious go-getter type where, if it was snowing, I would say, hey, to my parents, I'm going to go shovel driveways and make some money. Hey, I'm going to go cut some grass and make some money. So I was the ambitious one, but I always also wanted to go out and see the different things. So if my family wasn't going on vacation, but I knew my cousins were going on vacation, I would ask my aunt, hey, can I go with you? So I think that level of exposure helped me to understand that there's more out there in the world than just what I was used to.
So you were kind of intrigued and you were inquisitive about everything else, but you also worked. It sounds like, I mean, at a very young age, that ambition, you just, you kind of had that, twinkle in your eye, if you will, as an entrepreneur, to really kind of get out there, and push, So then you were an athlete throughout high school, then you got into college as well. And then, kind of we're at full circle then right now. Right?
Yeah, definitely full circle, full steam ahead. And
how many children do you have? How many children?
Four.
You got 4 kids. Oh my goodness.
Remember, I started early, so 15 all the way down to 4.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you definitely have like the best of all worlds, and you have that are now boys, girls, mixture of the two?
So the first 3 are all girls, and the last one's a
Yeah.
boy.
Okay. All right. So then I'm assuming done with children now?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
I've
Well, you
been
got
having them for over 10 years. I'm good to go.
Man, is it, and that probably changed a lot of who you are as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine, Justin, because I know for my daughter, that was one of the provoking moments in my life. The day that she came in, everything changes, right? Like, and you had children at a young age, so you had to take your selfishness, right, and put it aside, at a very young age to be able to find that. I guess if you were to give some advice to our listeners, you got a wealth of knowledge and wisdom when it comes to this. And I'm so pumped to get your book, and I'm pumped to share the stage with you. It's going to be awesome.
Definitely.
What advice do you have for the listeners in the audience now? Like, if you could give like one, powerful nugget from you that you've learned, or one good, piece of advice for our listeners.
Yeah, the number one advice I would give, which I always give, is before you do anything, find yourself first. Because it doesn't matter how much money you're going to make. It doesn't matter who you're going to be around. The most important thing is having your solid foundation, because you can actually build on a solid foundation. You can't build your life on a faulty foundation. The solid foundation is you. So we've seen time and time again, celebrities self-destruct, athletes self-destruct, and they say, I lost myself, or I didn't find myself, or I didn't know who I was. Find yourself first and then go forward, because everything that you do from there is tied to who you truly are.
Yeah. And turn off the noise and have that confidence, which I'm going to be excited to read that book as well coming out, because those are, if confidence, finding yourself and cutting all the distractions, that's some wisdom right there. And that's really enough. If somebody was listening right now, and if they were at really like a deep point in their life, if they just did one of those 3 things right now, they would be doing better already. That's powerful.
Tune out the noise.
Yeah.
If you find yourself in a deep place, tune out the noise right now. Take some time out for you. Set aside some time, schedule it to really reflect, or even journal, even if it hurts, because you start to piece things together. It'll start to make a little bit more sense, but you'll start to hear your own voice, which for a long time, we don't hear our own voice. We hear everything else because we're so used to ourselves. It's like when your parents say, hey, stop doing that. You've heard that 5,000 times. You don't really pay attention to it, right? So we don't hear our own voice. But if you really take the time and be intentional in scheduling it to where you're either going to journal, meditate, pray, whatever the case is, daily, and remove some toxic things from you, you'll start to find yourself.
Well, and I guess it has to be daily as well, right, Justin? Because, there's not a quick fix. This is definitely a lifestyle change, right? And we used to tell our clients in the fitness industry, like, look, we're not going to give you a quick fix, 15 days and you're out of here, and then, go back to your old life. Like, this is something that you have to do repeatedly. And like you said, when you're canceling out that noise and you're trying to find that real small voice, especially in the world that we live in right now, like knock, knock, if people are listening, right? If you're listening to this right now, you're consuming something. Thank God you're consuming Justin, right?
Right.
And not the other noise that's out there, because there is a lot of confusion. And, I think that's really powerful, and you got to follow it every day, right? Like, this
Definitely,
isn't,
100%.
Wow, man. Like I said,
what? Really quick, I'm a big history buff. So if you pay attention to history, you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot faster, but there's so many clues. So, if you look back, as far as you can look back, humans have done some monumental things.
Absolutely.
Even for 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. Why? There were less distractions. They had more time to listen to themselves.
Yes.
So it's just human repetition. Listen to yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Find yourself. And then once you find yourself, now you got to listen, right? And then start working on building that confidence, because that's what's going to make or break it. Well, listen, dude, you and I could talk all day long, and we will, come next week. So hopefully anybody that's listening right now, if you're in Florida, you better be at this event. I don't care what coast you're on, East Coast, West Coast, it doesn't matter. got to come, come hang with us. I mean, look, it's going to be a great time. I appreciate you being on today, and we're going to have to do a part 2 of this. I got some cool things planned. We'll do some collabs. We'll really get everybody fired up because, well, 2 heads are better than 1. And, right. I always like to surround myself with winners and people that are better than me at something. So it takes our level up a notch. So I'm going to have you stick around just for a couple minutes as we finish up. Everybody else that's listening, hey, look, if you like this message, Justin, really quick, where can they find you? I always forget to do that as I'm cleaning up here.
Yeah, 2 things. You can find me on my website. It's www.versatile. And on Instagram, it's mr.personal.development.
Perfect. And I'll go ahead and attach you, as we get this thing out. We're going to go ahead and download everything for everybody that's listening now. If you're not a video person, or if you're driving, you want something to listen to. I know that I follow Justin and his stuff and podcast and everything as well. So definitely tune in. And look, if you like this, share this. We want somebody to hear it. That's the idea here. We want to be able to provoke positive change in somebody's life. Somebody needs to hear this message. And remember, provoke positive change in you and your peak performance as well. Thank you so much for being on, Justin.
Thank you for having me.